farting aloud on the podcast.
I'm gonna fart if I want to.
I'm gonna.
You can't
I
stop.
can't. In an impossible
You can't
situation.
stop me.
My eyes are gonna start
All right,
watering, and
ready?
I'm not allowed to say anything.
1, 2, 3. Well, hello. Welcome to the
Love and Thunder podcast.
episode 13.
3. They say
3.
the third one. The third time's a charm.
That's I don't know.
I feel like they're getting better and better. And
Yes.
we're getting
Hopefully.
into better and better topics too.
All right, today we're talking about why you're not making progress.
Why you're not making progress in the gym? Like, what's the matter with you?
Then we're gonna talk about the marijuana, Mary J,
Marijuana
as a PED,
as a performance-enhancing drug.
drugs.
We may or may not open up some minds and potentially change some opinions on this today.
Well, mine was changed, so hopefully. And lastly, we are gonna dive into gym attire.
Gym attire fails, do's
What
and
to?
don'ts.
Yep. What not?
What to do, what not
But
to
at the end
do.
of the day, you do what you want.
A couple good personal stories that we have on that too, right?
Very traumatizing.
Okay, cool. So let's get into this one, Cam. This is honestly, if you're out there and you're listening and you're an athlete or a coach, this is a really valuable conversation we're going to have. Diving into why you're not making progress with your program, or maybe why your athletes aren't making progress with the
Yes.
program. And a lot of the things that we're going to talk about are just observations we've made from watching a lot of
The
really
biggest
good...
one coming, especially I think coming from
You just totally cut me off.
I'm sorry.
Okay,
I wanted to
continue.
get into. I just wanted to get into it, because we try to keep things. Okay.
But my point is, we're gonna tell you some things that we've observed from some phenomenal high-level athletes that have been doing this for a very long time, and the differences we see in the way that they train versus the way a lot of the layman's train.
Yes, and I 100% made those mistakes.
Yep, absolutely.
Like I wish I could go back. So first thing first, that we see a lot is that people know how to go hard. But the problem is that they might not be going smart.
Yeah, you've heard the catch line like, oh, train smarter, not harder. Well, I actually think that's incorrect too. It's train smarter and harder.
Yes.
By training smarter,
Together.
you'll be able to train harder, but they're really interconnected.
Yes, because if you don't go hard, there's no adaptation.
Yep.
And that's like one of the problem that you see with people is that they keep showing up to the gym and always lift the same load. Always go at the same easy-ish intensity where it just always feels good.
Or the same movement.
Or the same
Or
movement.
the same way.
Yep.
Right? And I think for a lot of people, it's understanding that, as you become a smarter athlete, you become more efficient. And what you're trying to do is lay down a period of training where you can accumulate as many high-value repetitions as you can in a given training period and over a long time.
Yes.
So why are people unable to do that? And let's talk a little bit also as to what is a high-value repetition? Because that's kind of a catchphrase, right?
Yeah. There's such a difference between just training and having this insane curiosity into what's happening in your body and try to do literally everything you do it on purpose with purpose.
Yeah, and then, veteran athletes, they come into the gym, and one of the things that I'm always kind of taken aback by is that they make everything look so easy. And sometimes I'm surprised that somebody who's wow, they're really not lifting heavy weights. Now they always do eventually get to something that's really impressive, but they don't go in the gym and just start humping a barbell.
Oh, high-level athlete, one thing that they all have in common, undeniably, they move well. They move like athletes.
They're really meaningful, purposeful repetitions. Yes. So let's get into this term high-value repetition and talk a little bit about what it means. And I think you guys are probably guessing a high-value repetition is probably one that's mechanically sound. But what does mechanically sound even mean?
you move with the integrity of the movement in mind.
Okay, so like maybe looking at things like putting yourself in like mechanically advantageous
Yes.
positions that's going to allow you to maybe move a lot of weight, or orthopedically safe positions that's not going to expose joints in a way that they're really not to be meant to be loaded crazy heavy. But you know, even beyond that, it's not just about the positions that you're moving through, but it's about the way that you're lifting the weight. And one of the things that I observe from a lot of athletes that are specifically interested in putting on muscle and gaining size is that they're lifting weights incorrectly because they're losing a lot of the value in the movement by just going way too fast.
Yes, going way too fast and focusing too much on the wrong variables. And that for me, like going from like CrossFit to now, like I just want to be healthy for life, right? And I want to look amazing. I want to be athletic, but there's no more like performance at all costs. And what I've noticed by slowing things down is that you can really feel your muscle.
So let's say I'm a guy and I come in the gym and I know I got a 300-pound bench press. So that day, of course, I'm going to come in and want to put 300 pounds on the bar. But if you tell me, hey, instead of just trying to lift as much weight as you possibly can here, let's maybe increase the repetition range and slow the movement down so that maybe you're getting better peak muscle tension or extended time under tension to allow your muscles to have the right type of stress to grow.
And increase your mind-muscle connection. So now when you go back to try to hit that 300, you're so much more aware of what you're doing with so much more purpose in better position. So now we dig back into that orthopedic safety and that mechanical advantage, which will lead to fitter, stronger with the longer life period because you will not get injured.
Now, beyond the the mechanical piece of it is like what kind of positions are you holding and how are you lifting the weight? There also is the piece of intensity.
Yes.
So that plays into a high value repetition too, because you can't just put no weight on the bar and say, oh, I'm moving perfectly. But in order to get a response, you have to have one or two sets in every given exercise where you're actually kind of flirting with failure. Maybe the technique is about to break down. It's not ugly yet, but it's about to.
It gets shaky.
It gets a
right
little
before
shaky.
it gets ugly. We're good.
Not every rep can be shaky like that, right?
Well, the risk reward, and this is where you learn how to train smarter, is how can I introduce overload in the movement that isn't necessarily going for that ugly 1 rep max? How can maybe I add tension at different part of the movement? Maybe I can have someone like press against me, so it's like a load I couldn't do, but in a safer environment than doing like those huge lifts.
And that's something we talk about a lot, is like the idea of redefining intensity beyond just speed or load. Because listen, speed or load are great. They're great for athletic performance. But to be honest with you, they're also closely related to injury. Because almost all the time when we see somebody who messed themselves up, it was speed or load was present. It was either way too fast or way too heavy. And that's the straw that breaks the camel back. So we talk a lot about ways that we can redefine intensity, not in just trying to make a heavyweight feel light, but finding ways to make a lightweight feel really, really hard. And that's a great way to kind of circumnavigate those important players. Like, you do need to lift heavy, but it doesn't need to be all the time. And it's really a dangerous game. It's like Russian roulette, especially as you get older.
Oh my God, yes.
and then finally, like another piece I think people miss is the idea of like variance.
Yeah, that's exactly what I wanted us to start digging in.
So let's say I'm in there and I'm doing my deadlifts and my back squats and my bench press.
Variance is one of those throw everywhere word. It's a great program. There's variance.
Yeah, but you can either go way too much or not enough. So like, one of the things we talk about with people is like, honestly, the smallest amount of variance when it comes to like a movement. Like, let's say instead of the regular pull-up, we're doing them strict now. Or instead of the regular grip on a pull-up, we go to a wide grip. Even the smallest change
wide, reverse,
can make a
narrow,
really big difference in terms of finding, you're still doing a pull-up, right? But it's just like little small variations and the types of load you're using. Like everyone usually lifts just the straight weight, and we're a big fan of like adding different types of resistance, maybe putting bands on the bar to make it a little harder as you lock out, or band assistance even to make it a little easier.
We should talk about band in the next podcast because I want people to understand why bands are so amazing.
And again, that's another one. It's like you don't want to go crazy with it, but it is a valuable tool to use, especially
100%.
in terms of longevity.
Too much variance, like I don't understand the too much variance because it's like, yes, you're doing a lot of things, but there is no plan and purpose, and how are we like following? And at the opposite, not enough variance. Are we training the same muscle too much?
Yep, and that's another piece. So, you say a high value repetition. Well, what does that mean even beyond the movement that you're doing and the weight that you're lifting?
Yeah.
Is like, well, what's the time between the body parts that you're training?
Yep.
Are you giving yourself enough time between those body parts to heal and remodel and grow thicker and allow the hormones to recover? Or are you training it too frequently?
Yeah.
And there's really no opportunity for growth because it's constant breakdown of the same muscle group, which, by the way, also inhibits your ability to work intensely at it because your body's always in such an alarm
like
state.
80, 70, 60% type of deal. So,
And then, to the flip side of that, there's the same thing with like not hitting it enough. There are core movements that everyone needs to be doing consistently, and there are variations of them. So there's squatting variations, pressing variations, pulling variations. But like within those broad categories, there's infinite amounts of variation you can put between them.
Yes.
And
the thing about variation to keep in mind is that a dangerous movement is an untrained one. And like that is like a good thing to keep in mind. People can do like insane feat of like athletic thing. Like look at the circus. And the reason why they don't get injured is because they are trained in that pattern. And you can kind of do that with everything.
We were listening to Dorian Yates, one of the greatest bodybuilders of all time, talking about his leg day.
Yes.
And that's something that at Thunderbro Muscle Anarchy, like we're kind of known for having just brutal leg days. And when someone comes in the program...
For those who like to destroy your butt.
Yep. It's all about
because we all want to build our butt.
But,
I got you, girls.
When they look at our program, they say like, oh, you only train legs once a week? And the truth is, you don't want to train it more than that, right? It's going to take you 4 or 5 days to actually feel right again because we hammer it with so much volume and so much intensity. That's how long it takes to be able to recover. Otherwise, you're not going to be as intense in the session. And I think in terms of like anybody with injury, back injury, knee injury, hip injury, anything kind of lower body, spine related, this gives you enough time between sessions to actually go into your next leg day feeling good.
Yes.
Now, in between there, we still touch those body parts, but it's not within the realm of strength training or bodybuilding or hypertrophy, but it's more like conditioning.
Yes.
It's great to do some air squats or some wall balls.
Regenerative. I can't say that word.
Regenerative. And we'll do it like 48 hours later. It's a great way to flush, and that actually accelerates the healing.
And talking about recovery, what a great segue to dive in our good friend, Mary J.
Mary J. Marijuana. That's what we're talking about today in public.
Mary J., which I had no idea because when I was competing, that was on the banned substance. So I could never do it.
Well, I was taught to be like afraid of marijuana. When you were growing up, was it like it was very taboo?
Yes.
It's like,
you're gonna become a drug addict.
I remember like a police officer coming to our health class with a suitcase or a briefcase full of drugs, and I was like, where are you gonna get that briefcase? But and everything in it, black tar, heroin. But it was like, this is marijuana. It's a gateway drug, and it's going to lead to all these other things. And for my parents, and this is stigma and propaganda. But what the media tells you about it is like, oh well, you'll be a burnout. You'll lose your memory. You won't be worth anything. You'll just be this skeezy pothead.
Which is funny because all of that is like not even effect of it. The effect of it are like, oh, you don't want to try this because it's going to help you with your anxiety. It's going to help you sleep better. You're going to feel more relaxed, but don't do it.
We watched a scene from the Walk Hard movie, which is like a spoof on Johnny Cash with John C. Reilly.
That scene is
There's a
perfect.
scene where he comes in and they're smoking marijuana in a closet, and they say, get out of here, Dewey. You don't want any of this. It's marijuana. He goes, well, I don't want to get addicted. It's not addictive.
It's not addictive.
You're like, well, I don't want a hangover. It doesn't give you a hangover. Well, it sounds kind of expensive. It's literally the cheapest drug there is.
I kind of want to try it now.
But yeah, exactly. But you know, I think they're especially my parents' generation when I was growing up, the dare to keep kids off drugs program really demonized this stuff. And like it's a powerful drug, like any powerful drug, needs to be done responsibly. But we found that it does have a really fantastic application for health and wellness and even performance if you're someone who's willing to try or experiment. And there are all different places to start. My first experience with it, outside of, you know, whatever, smoking a joint in a parking lot, and I thought it was so bad, was after back surgery was the first time that I actually really started getting into it, because we lived in Colorado, which is a state where it's legalized, and I had a previous surgery before, back when I was playing baseball, where I had my elbow reconstructed. And Tommy John surgery. So it's like a Frankenstein operation. But anyways, like any doctor that does an orthopedic surgery, they give you painkillers, narcotics, and they gave me Vicodin, and I got hooked on the Vicodin as like a young 20-year-old, and it was scary, super scary, because you know, I just felt like I just ended up taking more and more, and then I couldn't sleep without it, and it took some intervention of friends and family to actually take it away and hide it from me and say you can't do this. And you know, I think I was lucky in that regard, but I realized that I should never touch that again.
Yes.
And then when we went through this back surgery, which was brutally painful.
Just for people at home, geez, your back surgery. So Dave, I mean, I think that's not a surprising, but Dave is like, it is tough. He's tough in the weirdest way.
Very weird. I'm a weird kind of tough. Like, for little things, I'm a big baby, but if I get like a gunshot wound, I'm like, we'll deal with it later.
So we'll get a paper cut, and he's like pretty much asking me to like
completely shut down, but then major stuff.
Hug him to sleep,
stone-faced.
but then exactly.
But it was so bad. I mean, the pain was. I've heard of this before. But
I mean,
the pain was so intense.
so bad that you were puking.
Vomit. Yeah.
Yes.
But
Dave was like puking nonstop. I had to help you get in the car
while we're leaving the hospital, and this speaks to how our medical system may have some major issues with regard to this subject. I told the doctors and the nurses, I don't want any painkillers. Don't give me any painkillers. In which they responded, here are 4 different types of painkillers.
Yes.
Oxycontin, Vicodin, Dilaudid, Percocet. They let me do 4 different. I mean, it was like a fucking party. And
I mean, I knew, because you've told me you had an issue with that. And the goal was to not have any in the house, because I can't babysit you like
they wouldn't let us leave the hospital without it.
Exactly.
And I was kind of
I had to take it and literally hide it in the house, and then we would have like arguments sometimes, because my job was to help you through this.
So as soon as we got back, and I was on the couch for like 2 weeks, unable to stand up, unable to go to the bathroom or anything, we started, instead of doing the painkillers I think it was every 4 or 6 hours.
We did edible every like 2 to 4 hours.
Yep, I think it was like every 4 hours. I probably took it maybe 3 times a day, but and it was only like 5 milligrams of THC and 20 milligrams.
But
of
it was
CBD.
Enough to get you through it.
It was enough to get me through it, and not only that, like I slept better.
Yes.
I really liked that. Unlike the painkillers, I didn't get constipated. So like that's a real thing with painkillers. Like, you get really badly constipated after the surgery, after the anesthesia. Like I didn't suffer from any of that.
Yeah.
And I think in general, I was up and moving and more coherent and more active quicker, and it definitely contributed to me recovering from that back surgery quicker. But after the pain phase was over, I was so like happy with my quality of sleep by taking it later at night, but I said, I'm just going to keep doing this, because I'm getting like blackout sleep and waking up feeling awesome.
Yes, you did.
And so we live in Colorado, like why not? And it became a regular part of my nighttime routine, bedtime routine, kind of sleep hygiene habit. Is like, okay, an hour before bed, you know, you can take it. Now, there are different types of derivatives of marijuana you can take, and I think the ones most people are familiar with are THC, which is the psychoactive part, the part that makes you feel high.
Yeah, you like we're different on that, because so I couldn't do anything forever, and then once I stopped competing and we decided to try to have a baby, it's kind of it was like kind of a shift for me when I stopped competing, that it was like, well, it's time to take care of my health, because as you're competing, it was like shutting down the blinder to just like keep going straight. And I knew things were starting to fall apart, like within me.
Like physically, mentally, emotionally.
Yes,
yeah.
all of it. But it was like, here's the goal, and let's just. It's like I don't want to know that stuff until I'm kind of past like the game.
There's not going to be a police officer
it's
there
not gonna
waiting
help
to piss
me.
test you. Because you don't want to do anything nefarious or lie to people or be dishonest. And for a lot of the athletes we talked to about this, some of them have restrictions. Some of them are firefighters or law enforcement or the military, and they get drug tested and stuff. So maybe they can't do the THC. But
wait, let me finish, because I'm not even talking about that. I'm just talking about my health in general. Like during as I was competing. During the CrossFit game, like my last 2 or 3 years, I could tell I was falling apart.
Yep.
But I had those goals in mind, and I didn't like nothing about the marijuana or whatever I'm talking about right now. I didn't want to know, like
that it would help you.
No, how bad my health was.
Oh, okay.
Because it would put doubt in my head when I was competing.
Yeah, I know exactly what you're talking about. You don't want to look at it yet because you have to focus on winning.
Yes, and I don't want it to start to slow me down, because you're like, well, yes, I am falling apart, which is like, in the back of your head.
So what exactly does that have to do with marijuana?
Well, so that's the thing, is like when I stopped, it was like time for me to look at that stuff. And I never realized until I looked about the amount of anxiety I had. I could not sleep at night.
You see this on a flow chart where it's like the anxiety reading is very high in your blood work.
Well, no, but like I started to research like what like
symptoms
like
of anxiety.
Panic attack and anxiety, like, and I'm like, oh wow, well, I had a lot of those.
Well, it's a good
and I
point.
reached out to Elizabeth Yurt, which is my doctor.
And you had really low dopamine, was she was saying.
Super low dopamine, and that was the first thing she told me. She was like, try this. And I remember the first night, it was very spooky. I'm gonna try this thing.
So, if I gotta tell you the story about Camille getting high the first time, this is the new title of the podcast. So, she knows I do it every night.
Wait, let me just finish. It shut down my brain, and it was amazing.
It was amazing.
It like helps my anxiety so much. It's like unbelievable.
I'll return to the difference between THC and the CBD in a second.
Next podcast,
let's
we'll talk about that.
My
first time.
This is a great one.
No, that's not the first one. So I started taking it. I would take like something like 2 milligrams of THC, but I would take it before bed, so I would fall asleep. And I'm like, I don't know if it's doing anything, but I'm sleeping so well.
Colorado has like
so I decided
the best marijuana. Like everything is done so professionally.
So I didn't tell Dave, because that's how I do things. I don't tell anyone. And I did 5.
You did 5 milligrams of THC.
Yes.
Which for most people, that's like a strong enough dose to get them feeling a little high.
Yes.
Right? For someone who's like me, like bigger dude, more body weight, it may take a little bit more. It might take 10, 20, but like that's actually for someone your size, a fair amount. And it was a gummy.
Yeah.
And so I'm like watching TV downstairs, and I hear Camille kind of come down the stairs, and I ask her a question. And she doesn't answer me, and I go, "Oh, I guess Camille either didn't hear me." Or
so
she's
I went to hide.
Me.
I went to hide in the room because I was like, "Oh, something's happening."
She was doing something she knew that I would like. She didn't want me to know about it, right?
So I came downstairs because obviously I was hungry. So
you get the munchies, and you're
I got the munchies.
like a little mouse in the kitchen, like. Shh.
And in my head, they've asked me something, and then I don't know how much time went by, and I went back in the living room, and I asked him. I'm so sorry. You asked me something.
No, you responded to my question 10 minutes later, as if I had just asked you the question. I was like, is this a time lapse? Am I caught in a space-time continuum? Because I asked her a question and there's like a 10-minute delayed response.
That's how it felt.
And then she just answered it, like not even alluding to the fact that that's what she was answering. And so
fast forward, we go in bed.
We go to bed. Cammie's giggling, and she goes, "David, I took an edible." I go, "It's okay, all right, it's fine, good. You're feeling good, yeah, I'm feeling good." And then she couldn't stop laughing.
By giggling, you mean I literally thought I was gonna die.
She has
laughing.
a case of the giggles, and it's like game over.
You kept
it doesn't
saying
even
pickle,
matter.
and it was like
it was the word.
funniest
I kept on
thing
saying
ever.
the word pickle, and every time I'd say pickle, she'd just lose it, and I'd be like, "Okay, you're higher than I thought you were."
And then so no one told me this, but your mouth get dry when you get high.
No. Don't even give me an excuse yet, because this is a great story.
But
we shut the lights off, and she goes, "David, I don't think I'm okay." Okay, what's wrong? I think my tongue is swollen. You know, your tongue's not swollen. She's like thinking she has
I
allergic
thought I
response to
was-
marijuana, and then she goes, "My lips are swollen too." She thought everything was closing up. The whole world was
so
closing.
mad
Your
at
face was
you.
becoming like a mushy grape or
I was
something.
so mad at you for not like.
She thought she was mad that I didn't rush her to the hospital. By the way, we heard phone calls of people calling police
Yeah,
while they were
that
high,
was almost
claiming
me.
that they think they're dying.
That was almost me.
I was-
So here's why. Because your mouth gets dry, which I had no idea before. I never thought about how much space
The
your
qualification
Wait,
doesn't
let
make
me
it any
finish.
less
Let
funny.
me finish. I never thought before about how much space your tongue takes in your mouth, and it's all of it. When your mouth is closed, your tongue takes all the space, and I was like, how am I gonna breathe?
You're not gonna be able to breathe. Your tongue is too big. That's it. Game over.
Definitely.
This is a good news story.
I'm
Found
having-
dead in the bed in the
I'm
morning.
having an allergic reaction. It's when I
just-
started to talk like this.
I
gosh.
think my tongue is swollen.
But whatever, we love it.
Okay.
It's a
Overall, just a couple quick things, and we'll talk later about the differences between THC and CBD.
Let's talk
but-
about it next time. Gym
Yeah.
attire, do's and don'ts.
Okay, so today we're at the gym.
Yes,
and
we were.
I'm with my wife. We're lucky to have a relationship
God.
where if I see something as a guy that you might observe and maybe not tell a girl, I trust my wife enough that I can be completely honest with her
We have
and feel like she's not going to judge me or anything.
Our relationship is see something, say something.
Exactly. Like I'm totally okay with being like, hey, that chick's really hot, or is that really fake boobs?
I
Like,
most of the time tell you someone is hot.
exactly, and then she's
I can
perfect
appreciate
to
it, a
admire the
beautiful woman.
female form with having the confidence that Camille's my queen and I love her. Okay, so there's not a word to describe. But anyways, this girl, we're at the gym, and this girl is like coming off this, it was like a squat machine we were trying to get on.
Yep.
And she's wearing like a wife beater tank top. But as she walks by, I noticed that she's not wearing
A bra.
anything underneath. And so it's
And
like
the shirt was so thin, we literally could see
the
everything. through.
this particular style of boob that she was sporting was very visible because of the geometry of it. It was not. It kind of defied gravity in some ways.
Well, I think she was cold, so which is fine. Nipples are nipple.
Fair enough. I appreciate that. But I just kind of like noticed it. And actually, the first person.
So
this is so funny.
you, so this
because-
is a no for you. For Dave, it's a no. We shouldn't see your boobs through your shirt.
I think depending on the environment, but in most public gym environments, I'd probably say like save that for like a sexy night with people you're okay
Yeah.
doing that around, because in the gym, like you get a lot of creepy guys in the gym, and I hope I'm
Yeah.
not one of them, because like I try to notice it but not like look at it too
Yeah.
much or make that person feel uncomfortable.
See, for me, I'm like I love seeing girls doing what the heck they want. But on the flip side, I understand like that part. Like some people are like really creepy.
Yeah,
Like which I would never wear that, but I kind of wish I had the confidence. to.
noticing it once is normal. Looking back at it 2 or 3 times is starting to become
Yeah,
creepy. So,
yeah.
but normally what I do is I don't look back. I just ask Camille,
Yeah.
and I'm like, hey, is this chick wearing a bra? Or vice versa, like Cam will see something and then ask me a question.
Yeah.
So the other side is like dudes at the gym that are wearing like tights or really short shorts and like, or tight shorts or something where like you can see the outline of the penis.
Yeah, that's like is that how you feel about seeing girls' boobs? Would be like me
In that level of detail, like without the bra in a
Yeah,
wife beater,
would be
for
like
sure.
me,
That
like,
made me very
seeing-
uncomfortable.
Yeah, because when it does make me uncomfortable to see like everything, like guys wearing like white like spandex, and then you see everything, and they look at you, and for some
Well, it's just
reason
not the place for it. If it was at the strip club or something,
they always
or-
have their hands on their hips and kind of that arch back, and you're like, yeah, it's there.
It's really.
It makes me uncomfortable because I feel like I'm trespassing.
Is there any
their
universal? Is there
intimacy.
any universal barometer for when you're about to leave the house? Like, is it okay or not? Like, what's the barometer for that? Is there any kind of litmus test that you can do at home to know, like, is this too much?
I don't know, because I mean, you've seen my butt many times.
That's it.
But here's what I said was too much. It's too much if you post about it, like, and have like a
motivational quote,
a
biblical quote,
a biblical quote
I just
under
wanna
that.
talk
For me,
about
that's too much, because you can do whatever you want,
well, let me ask you a
but
question.
don't pretend to be something that you're not.
I think it's not as much about like other people being uncomfortable, although that's a factor, but like, will you be uncomfortable if other people are staring at you? So like, if
Yeah, that's
you're
what
the
I'm
person
saying. I
who
wish
goes
I
out and
could.
your butt cheek is hanging out,
Yes.
and then everyone at the gym is staring at you, is that something you want?
Yeah.
Or is that something you're gonna be uncomfortable
Yeah.
by? Because
So
I could
final
see you.
quote: do what you want,